There are certainly lots of questions about the economy and economic policy right now. Our guest in today's podcast interview spent a decade working on economic policy within the Federal Reserve System and as president of the Philadelphia Fed. But Pat Harker has penned a piece for the new Knowledge at Wharton column titled Vantage Point. It'll have Wharton professors discussing various topics on a monthly basis. That article is now available to be read. And a pleasure to be welcoming back to the show Pat Harker to This Week in Business. Pat, great to talk to you again. How are you,
Good
sir?
to see you, Dan.
What was it that spurred your kind of literary juices to do a column like this?
When you're in the Fed, you're very limited in what you can say. You never cross the boundary to fiscal policy. It's really, you take fiscal policy as given and you do the best you can on the monetary policy side. But I was freed from that constraint after I left on June 30th of
Yeah.
2025, 6 months ago. So there are things I feel very strongly about in terms of the institution itself and what it can do and what it can't do, and what the real issues in the economy are. Um, Bottom line is 25 basis points up or down is not going to make or break the economy. We have deeper issues that we need to address. I wasn't able to talk about those before. I am now.
Right. And so this first article that you're writing is titled When Monetary Policy is Asked to Do Too Much. Kind of give us a framework as to why that tends to be the case at times.
So I think it's fundamentally that many of our institutions right now, at least Americans, perceive them as dysfunctional, that they're not achieving what we've asked them to do. Like Congress has not passed the budget in regular order in decades. So there, we start with that. And so people are frustrated. They're frustrated that the economy is not where they want it to be. So they look to the Fed to try to solve those problems. But the Fed doesn't really have the tools to solve the fundamental problems the economy has. That's what I'm really worried about. Because when you have people believe you can do more than you can actually do, you always disappoint. And when you disappoint, people start to turn on you. And what I want to do is make sure this institution is protected.
Are there specific instances you can give us where monetary policy is being asked to do one thing, but it really can't?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, in terms of, let's take the labor market. Yes, the Fed has a dual mandate, right? Uh, in terms of inflation, stable prices, and a 2% target. They've decided that means stable prices and maximum employment. Maximum employment is an elusive concept in that you don't actually know what it is. I mean, inflation we can measure, maximum employment is a little tougher. But the reality is, monetary policy is not going to do a whole lot on employment. The employment issues are much deeper in our economy than just 25, 50 basis points up or down.
You talk about opportunity and growth and kind of the connection that those two elements have, which is interesting because if you talk to a lot of people, I think they feel like they're not necessarily experiencing maybe the opportunity that they would want to. And as you said, even with the kind of mythical idea of whether or not we're at full employment or not.
Yeah. So take the opportunity word. When I was back at the Philly Fed, we launched something called the Opportunity Mobility Explorer. And we really tried to look at jobs across America, and it's a database all across America, where these are jobs that pay above median wages, that is good, solid middle class wages, where you don't need a 4-year college degree.
Right.
And so there's an example of where there's opportunities there. I mean, take, for example, a data center, building a data center, a large data center, a hyperscaler data center. And at its peak, they need about 1,400 electricians working in that facility, an equivalent number of plumbers and carpenters and so forth. We
Right.
need those skilled trades. We are woefully shy. We're right now, the estimate I've seen is about 500,000 tradespeople shy in America, and it's going to get worse. So there are opportunities there, but we need to invest in training programs. We need to invest in kind of fundamentals of the labor market to get people ready. On top of that, AI is coming. We need to retrain an entire generation, plus educate the next generation. So some co-authors and I have put down some thoughts on that too. about recreating the land grant concept that Abraham Lincoln signed in 1862 for a digital age.
So how would that actually go about working then?
Oh, in terms of the digital
Y-
land grants?
yeah,
Yeah. So go back to 1862. In the middle of the Civil War, Lincoln saw it as really important to launch the land grant model, where literally states were given grants of land to create universities that would teach agriculture and mechanical arts. That is the technology of the day. Okay, fast forward to today. What is land? It's cyber land. It's digital land. We need to recreate that concept of the federal government seeding investment along with the private sector in a whole new generation of educational programs at all levels, community college to PhD, everywhere. Because we need those skilled workers for this to work, for this AI revolution to actually pay off.
right. Well, and I find it interesting. A lot of people have talked about how education in general is going to need to develop and grow as we move throughout the years. And this is one of the components of it. Even with how I think how digital is believed that it's going to continue to develop and change, you start with the core processes and build from there. And you can continue to, have people, improving their education component so they can be at the front line of a lot of these jobs.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be industry by industry because for this to pay off, a particular industry is going to figure out, like healthcare, how can they use these AI tools most effectively?
Yeah.
And we're going to see that across every single industry. And it's not going to be one size fits all. The answer is going to be different. And we need people that understand those industries, understand those jobs, and they can tinker with the AI. They can tinker with the technology. I'm a big fan of tinkerers because tinkerers make things work.
Right, exactly. You make a statement at the end of your article that I'd like to read for all the people listening and watching us and get your comments to expand it. What we lack is not economic insight, it is political follow-through. Monetary policy can create the conditions for stability. It cannot on its own secure the nation's economic future.
Yep. A brilliant guy wrote that, I guess, Dan.
Well, I mean, expand upon that because and you touched
Yeah.
on a little bit that Congress has not done in terms of a budget a good enough job for decades to be able to pass, an annual budget on time. And it's more than just what we see on Capitol Hill, but there are so many other
Yeah.
elements to it.
Yeah. So think about the situation we've put ourselves in terms of our fiscal health. And you can just look at the work from our colleagues at the Penn Wharton budget model. We are crowding out all kinds of investment, necessary investment in infrastructure, education, and so forth, because we are unwilling to address the fundamental issue that we're spending too much money given the revenue we're bringing in.
Right.
And so, again, the Penn Wharton budget model people have practical ways of dealing with this. But we need the political will to want to solve it because this is not going to get better. It's going to get worse, and we're going to continue to crowd out the productive investments we need to make in the economy.
This is a great article, and as we mentioned, it's now up on the Knowledge at Wharton website. Let me ask you first before you leave, in doing these articles, what do you hope you think you're going to be able to bring on all of these different topics that you'll be writing about?
So I hope we can start to bring people together to spur conversation and to spur action. I'm a very action oriented person. So I want not just to talk about this, I actually want people to roll up their sleeves and do something about it. And that's what I'm really trying to prod. I'm trying to prod people to, to take action to solve these problems.
Pat, always great to talk. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Patrick Harker, who is Professor of Operations, Information, and Decisions here at the Wharton School.